Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about, she's known as the Mountain Queen, Lhakpa Sherpa.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of her.
Yeah, she summited Mount Everest more times than any other woman.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're actually going to be talking about a podcast that discusses a documentary series called The Summit of Lhakpa Sherpa's Life. And I think you're going to find this really fascinating because it goes way beyond just her climbing achievements.
Yeah, her story's pretty incredible. What's so interesting about her is that she was actually born in the village of Thame in Nepal,
Oh, wow.
right in the Himalayas. So not only was she surrounded by these amazing mountains, but she grew up in a family with a really strong mountaineering tradition.
So she was basically destined to be a climber.
Pretty much, yeah. Her father was a very experienced climber himself.
Oh, wow.
So you can just imagine how that environment must have shaped her dreams.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if I grew up surrounded by mountains like that, I think I would want to climb them too.
Yeah.
But did she ever consider any other paths? I mean, given the societal expectations for women in her community.
That's a great question, and it's something that the documentary actually delves into a bit. You see, in the Sherpa community, women are traditionally expected to focus on domestic life, raising children.
Right.
And mountaineering, it's predominantly seen as a male domain.
Oh, I see.
But Lakpa, she was always drawn to the mountains from a young age. I mean, she was inspired by her father.
Of course. Yeah.
And legend has it that she actually even dreamed of climbing Everest as a child.
Wow. What a childhood dream to have. And she went for it, right? I mean, I remember hearing that she attempted to climb Everest at a very young age.
Yes, she was only 15 years old on her first attempt. Now, she didn't actually reach the summit that time.
Oh.
But it just shows you her determination and tenacity. I mean, the
Right.
documentary really highlights how these failures, instead of deterring her, it just fueled her desire even more.
It's amazing how some people, they can take those setbacks and they just kind of use it as fuel to go even further. What makes Everest so challenging, though? What sets it apart from other mountains?
Well, Everest is unique. It presents these incredibly difficult challenges, not just in terms of altitude and weather,
Right.
but also things like the extreme cold, treacherous ice falls,
Oh, wow.
the storms that can just come out of nowhere.
That sounds terrifying.
It's intense, and it really tests the limits of human endurance. I mean, you have to deal with the psychological pressure as well, the constant awareness that you're taking a risk. Imagine dealing with altitude sickness, frostbite.
Oh, my God.
And of course, the ever-present threat of avalanches, all while you're pushing your body to the absolute limit.
Just listening to you describe it makes my stomach drop.
Oh,
I can't even imagine the mental and physical strength it takes to even attempt a climb like that. I mean, it must take a toll on the body and the mind.
oh, absolutely. And it really speaks to Lakpa's strength and resilience that she was able to overcome these challenges. And not just once, but multiple times. The documentary even shows this one harrowing experience that she had on one of her climbs.
Really?
Yeah, she got caught in a blizzard.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was really sudden. And she had to dig a snow cave to survive the night and cling to life in sub-zero temperatures.
Oh, my gosh. That's a chilling story. It really puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
We often hear about all the glory of reaching the summit, but we don't always hear about those life or death situations that climbers face along the way. It's pretty humbling.
Yeah, that's just one example.
Yeah.
The documentary also talks about another expedition where Lakpa encountered a group of climbers who had actually perished on the mountain. And she had to make this incredibly difficult decision to leave them behind
Oh, wow.
because bringing their bodies down was just too risky.
I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been, both emotionally and ethically.
Yeah, and it's moments like these that really show the true human cost of conquering Everest. It's not just a physical challenge, it's also emotional and psychological, unlike any other.
Yeah.
And Lakpa's story, which is documented so well in the series, offers a really honest and raw look at those often overlooked aspects of mountaineering.
So we've been talking about the challenges, the dangers of climbing Everest. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about Lhakpa's incredible 2000 summit. What made this particular climb so significant?
Well, for one, she achieved this summit with her father by her side,
Oh, wow.
which I'm sure was an incredibly special experience for her.
Absolutely.
But beyond the personal significance, the summit also marked her as one of the first women to reach the top of Everest multiple times.
That's incredible. And we've talked about the societal barriers she faced. Did this achievement help to challenge any of those norms within the Sherpa community?
Absolutely. The documentary shows that her success really sparked conversations and challenged those traditional views of women's roles in the community. Now, it wasn't an overnight transformation, but her accomplishments definitely planted seeds of change and really paved the way for other aspiring female Sherpa climbers.
That's amazing to hear, how she was able to kind of use her accomplishments as a platform for change.
Yeah.
But the docuseries, it doesn't shy away from the more complex parts of her story, does it? I mean, it also explores the sacrifices she made to pursue her dreams.
Right, exactly. And it shows how Lhakpa really struggled at times to balance her passion for mountaineering with being a mother.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine having to leave your children behind for months at a time to go on these incredibly dangerous expeditions. The documentary really highlights the difficult choices she had to make and the emotional impact it had on her family.
Oh, for sure. That must have been incredibly difficult for everyone involved. It reminds us that even the most extraordinary people, they still face those very human challenges. It's so easy to just focus on the triumphs, but those personal sacrifices, they often go unnoticed.
It's a good reminder, that success, it often comes at a price, and it's important to acknowledge those sacrifices that are made along the way. And I think the series does a really great job of humanizing Lhakpa,
Yeah.
showing her not just as this record-breaking climber, but also as a woman who's navigating complex personal and societal pressures.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of sacrifices, the docuseries kind of expands its focus beyond just Lhakpa's individual journey, and it starts to highlight the contributions of the Sherpa community.
Yes. And those contributions are often overlooked.
Yeah, for sure.
We often think about Everest expeditions and we picture the climbers as the heroes.
Right.
But behind every successful summit, there's this whole team of Sherpas who played this absolutely crucial role,
Oh, yeah.
often risking their own lives to support the climbers. And the documentary does a really good job of shedding light on their incredible expertise and their resilience and the challenges that they face.
Can you give us some specific examples, like what makes their role so essential?
Well, think about it this way. The Sherpas are really the logistical backbone of these expeditions. They carry these heavy loads of equipment, they set up camps, they fix ropes along these really treacherous routes,
Wow.
and they guide the climbers through incredibly dangerous terrain. Plus, they have this intimate knowledge of the mountain's weather patterns, its crevasses, and the areas that are prone to avalanches.
It sounds like their expertise, it goes way beyond just being physically strong climbers.
Oh, absolutely. It's this combination of endurance and technical skills and this really deep knowledge of the mountain itself.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And the documentary also highlights how Sherpas often face an even higher level of risk than the climbers they're supporting,
Right.
because they're making these multiple trips up and down the mountain carrying supplies and assisting climbers.
Yeah, and that exposure, puts them at greater risk.
Oh, absolutely. It's a good point that their contributions are often undervalued, even though they're taking on these huge risks.
Yeah.
And Lhakpa's father, he's a perfect example of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't just her inspiration. He was also part of her climbing team.
Yeah, he was. The documentary showcases his experience and the sacrifices he made as a Sherpa guide. And it really emphasizes how important it is to recognize and respect that collective effort that's involved in these expeditions.
Yeah.
It's not just about individual ambition, it's about teamwork and community and this really deep connection with the mountains.
Yeah, and it's amazing how the documentary, it interweaves Lhakpa's story with this broader story of the Sherpa community
Yeah.
and their contributions and the challenges they face.
It's a powerful reminder that there's often more to the story than meets the eye. And this also ties in with Lhakpa's work as an advocate, which is another important part of the documentary.
That's right. She's become a very vocal advocate for Sherpa welfare and mountaineering safety.
Yeah.
What are some of the issues that she's trying to address?
Well, one of her main concerns is the lack of adequate insurance and financial support for Sherpas who are injured or lose their lives on expeditions.
Right.
And she's also advocating for better working conditions, fair wages, and greater recognition for what they contribute to the mountaineering industry.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that even though mountaineering has become more popular and commercialized, there are still a lot of ethical questions surrounding how Sherpas are treated and compensated for the work they do.
Yeah, for sure. Lhakpa's advocacy, it really shines a light on the need for more accountability and transparency within the industry. And she's also a big supporter of safety protocols and training programs to help minimize the risks for Sherpas.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to see her using her platform to highlight these issues.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that while we're celebrating these amazing feats of mountaineering, we also need to remember the human cost and advocate for safety and fairness for everyone involved.
Absolutely. And Lhakpa's advocacy, it actually extends beyond just the Sherpa community.
Mm.
Yeah, she's also a big advocate for environmental protection in the Himalayas. The documentary, it talks about how climate change is impacting the mountains. With the melting glaciers and the unpredictable weather patterns, it's creating new risks for both the climbers and the local communities who live there.
Yeah, that's a really important point. It's a reminder that the challenges that the Sherpa community face are really connected to these larger environmental issues.
Right, exactly. And Lakpa's voice is so important in raising awareness about these things. She's using her experience to advocate for more sustainable practices in mountaineering and just in general how we approach conservation in these fragile ecosystems.
So we've talked about her accomplishments, the
Yeah.
challenges she's faced, her advocacy work, and the sacrifices she's made. It's clear that Lhakpa Sherpa's story, it's about way more than just reaching the summit of a mountain.
It really is. It's about resilience and determination, challenging societal norms, and using your voice to make positive change. It's a story that I think resonates with everyone, even if you've never climbed a mountain in your life.
Absolutely. Her story reminds us that we all have the potential to push boundaries and overcome adversity and make a real difference in the world. Is there one key takeaway that you hope our listeners walk away with after this deep dive?
I think Lhakpa Sherpa's journey shows us that the human spirit is capable of amazing things. It's about perseverance and the importance of community and the impact that a single person can have when they really dedicate themselves to a cause that's bigger than themselves.
That's a great way to put it. It really gives us all something to think about.
Huh?
You know what other unsung heroes are out there pushing boundaries and making a difference in their own way? Whose stories are waiting to be told?
That's a great question. I think Lakpa's story encourages us to look deeper, to seek out those stories of resilience and determination that we might miss otherwise. Inspiration can come from the most unexpected places.
If you're interested in learning more about Lhakpa Sherpa, we highly recommend you check out the documentary series, The Summit of Lhakpa Sherpa's Life. It's truly inspiring, and it'll definitely stay with you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the incredible life of Lhakpa Sherpa, the Mountain Queen. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking for those stories that remind us of just how powerful the human spirit can be.
The summit is just the beginning.